Okay, this is part 3 of our videos on section 9.2. So now we're talking about validity conditions for chi-squared. So, um, so make sure we go back to the app and look at the show table. Okay, how many cells are in the table? In other words, how many counts need to be checked and that they are at least 10? So first, go back up. The validity condition is that um, a sample size is large if the sample size include at least 10 observations in each cell of the two-way table. Okay, so that means these numbers. Not the totals, not the proportions, but just like all the counts. So, how many cells are in this table? In other words, how many counts need to be checked if there are at least 10? I'll let you count that. Is the validity condition met for a theory-based chi-squared test satisfied for this data? So, of all the counts there, are all of them greater than 10? Okay, so now we do follow-up analysis. When a chi-squared test produces a significant result, we conclude at least one probability or population proportion differs from at least one of the others. A sensible next step is to try to identify which group proportion differs significantly from which others. We can do this by producing confidence intervals for pairwise difference in population proportions. Below the p-value output, check the box to compute 95% CIs for different proportions. Okay. Right, so it's on the very left right there. Okay. How many intervals are produced? All right, so you're gonna have to count them. Which conditions are significantly different from other? How are you deciding? Well, for my stuff, notice that it gives you an asterisk for the ones that are significant. That's helpful. And notice that this one, this interval right here, does not contain 0. Whereas every other interval has one negative number and one positive number. So it doesn't, all these other ones do contain 0. So that the number of significant results might be different for me than for you, because remember my numbers are changed. For one of the intervals you identified in part B, write a one-sentence interpretation of the interval, being very clear what is supposed to be captured inside the interval, and which condition has a more positive effect on towel use and by how much. So notice that here in this case, I've got only one of mine that's significant. And so I would say I'm 95% confident that the no norm message minus the same room message is, I should swap that. It's easier to write it the other way. So I'll change it again. 95% confident that, then change these numbers to positive because I'm swapping the negative. So between, I'm 95% confident that between 0.0, that about 0.0547 to 0.2 percent proportion of guests are more likely to reuse their towels with the same room message compared to the no norm message. So it's a complicated sentence to write down. So make sure that you kind of get that all correct in how you write it out. Okay, number 5, summarizing conclusions. So now we got some kind of review-ish questions. So is this an observational study or a randomized experiment? So let's review from chapter 5. Number 9, explain how the conclusions of the study are limited by conducting a study at a single hotel. So does that affect how we generalize the study? Number 20, summarize your conclusion for your analysis of the data from the study. So summarize the research question, the methods, and the data. Refer to the p-value from the chi-squared test and the confidence intervals to make a recommendation for the hotel manager about whether it matters what message is used, which message should be used, and how large of an impact the best message should be expected to have. So each of those should have a complete sentence. And then think about the study and its design. Were there any limitations you feel need to be addressed? Did the design match the research question? Can you suggest a better sampling method of hotel guests, a better way to collect data on towel use? Share some ideas for logical next study. So again, all of those should be complete sentences. So make sure you answer with complete sentences that last question. All right, that completes section 9.2.